Hi, welcome to the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Karin Kearns.
Good being here.
Is that good?
Yes, that was
She just told me the
brilliant.
correct pronunciation of her name. I've known her for like 5 years, so it's like Karin, not Karen.
Most
so
people say Karen.
That's all right. I like
So
Karin.
I'm confused
It's
myself.
exotic, very exotic. Karin is the Executive Coach and CEO of the Institute for Applied Creativity. She's going to tell us all about that. I can't wait to hear. And you may notice that on the website, we're just confusing everything today, but on the website you're going to see IAK, and that's because the company was founded in Germany, and creativity is spelled with a K, but just follow the website and you will find Karin. But okay, so tell us all about, I know that you're a coach, but tell us how this came about, this Institute for Applied Creativity here.
Well, the Institute has been around since 1970. I haven't been, I have been on this planet since 1970, but I have not been with the company. It was formed in 1970 in Germany. And the creativity refers to bringing innovation thinking and creative thinking into management and leadership, team building. And we're not talking about artistic creativity. We're talking about the idea of looking for different solutions in a more creative and a more open way. So that's where it comes from.
I like that, because you automatically, when someone says creativity, you go, oh, art and music and whatever, and I'm sure there's room for that. That's what I like about Points of View, because it takes coaching and it takes the cards. This is based on 65 cards that are both visual, and it has a verbal caption, which may or may not go together, and it brings kind of right brain and left brain thinking together. But it's creativity in the fact that there are visual images just takes you to another dimension. So I think that might be what you're talking about with the Institute for Creativity. It may be like, okay, this is how we do it, but now let's expand and let's thinking out of the box. That's a favorite coach phrase, right? So yeah.
And the thing is, with creativity, because we assign such a narrow idea to it, creativity must be artistic. We have clients, and I have had clients who are highly uncreative, brilliant people, don't think in a creative way, more in a mathematical way, for instance, or in a logistics way, or but when you become aware of your ability to switch your thought process and not stay on the same track, you become, in terms of solutions finding, dealing with people, dealing with problems, incredibly creative, because you suddenly open, it's opening perspective.
So the benefit of being creative in, I don't want to say a non-creative environment, but certainly business is conducted in specific manners and patterns. The benefit of being creative is what?
Well, I mean,
in the business sense.
Yeah, in the business sense, business is changing today. I mean, we used to have the top-down pyramid management.
Remember those structure charts that you used to have, and everybody who reports to who?
The ideas and the orders come from the
yes.
top down. I mean, we recognize today that we have reinvented organizations over the last, even over the last 5-6 years, it's changed. So we have a lot of modern organizations are horizontal organizations, which means we assign power in terms of innovation or creative ideas or different kind of leaderships across the board. So so it comes from a horizontal equal level as opposed to from the top down. So that's, for instance, creative thinking in business. Somebody came along and said, you know, the old ways just don't work that well anymore. Let's come up with something new, you know, because a new world requires new way of thinking.
Now, that brings up a question. Will applied creativity work in both vertical and horizontal businesses?
That depends on the people.
That's a good answer.
Nothing.
No guarantees, yes.
No, it depends on people. Are they open to the idea, let's step out of the status quo because we have to, or because we want to, or because our market requires it? Or do we doggedly stick to the status quo because it's worked in the past, so automatically we assume it must continue to work in the future. Which is, of course, it's so individual. Companies are very different. There is no cookie cutter thing. We all have to be creative in order to grow into the future. It depends on the company. Depends on the market. It depends where we are at this particular moment in time.
Okay. So you're judging, I assume you tailor make your programs for each of your clients based on where they are at this time, so you're judging on the present.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I brought this up before when she was telling me about the whole concept, which I think is fantastic, but there's this Dr. Philism that it's like the best way to predict future, this is my Dr. Phil impersonation, the best way to predict the future is to look at the past. And you said in response to that, you're not quite sure you agree with that. You think?
I actually am sure I don't agree with it. Or at least I agree.
No doubt about that. Okay.
I agree to a degree. The best way, and that's just my opinion, the best way.
But you're the expert, so we're going to take it.
Yes, my experience in terms of working with clients is the best way to look into the future is by looking at your present moment, because that's where your power is. And that's where your control over your life is. It's not in the past, And we talked about the idea, the difference between psychotherapy and coaching is in therapy, we look at the present and go revisit the past and see where we can fix things.
How we get to the present, yes.
And that has great value. In coaching, we tend to look into the future. Where do we want to be, and what do we need to do in the present in order to get there? That has tremendous value too. Both have. The coaching is a faster process because we go from action into the future. And the moment, if I just slightly adjust my course where I'm going, 5 miles from now, I will be way off my target. If I, instead of going like that, I go this. Now, in the moment, it may seem very little, but as we carry that path we take along, it'll bring us into a completely different direction. So the present is where our true power to change is. Not in the future.
I think I'm coming over to your way of thinking because, let's say 5 years ago, you were in a certain circumstance and you were president of a company, and now you're a manager of a larger company. The circumstances are different, so you can't really predict what, based on what happened 5 years ago. Maybe you were autonomous, and now you have many people to which you report and are responsible for. So I think you sold me. All right.
Oh,
no offense, Dr. Phil, but
well, he can give us a call if he tries to object. But there's also a fun element to it because if we think about the past, we're not really in the driver's seat. When we're in the present, we're absolutely in the driver's seat. We have this ability to simply look at the past and say, do you know what? Good things happen, bad things happen. It's okay. Let it go. It's fine. We can acknowledge it, but we don't have to hang on to it. And there's a big difference. So the moment we do that, we can breathe. Life becomes easier, So absolutely the present, and that is why.
Yes, I'll hold the card. It's a colorful card of choice, and I only need one card. It's choice. I said okay, and so tell us where choice comes into this.
I love choice because I think ultimately, if you want to sum up life in one word, it's choice. Have you ever made a bad choice in your life?
Yes. yes.
I disagree. I think every single choice you ever made was a good choice. Because would you consciously make a bad choice? You wouldn't. It may turn out later to be a bad choice. But when you make a choice, and that's where coaching becomes so fascinating. when you make a choice, let's say you're hanging out with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen those friends in a really long time and you're bonding and it's just super, okay? You're hanging out, you're having a couple of drinks, nobody's getting drunk, but you a couple of drinks. So time to go, right? And you just drag it out a little bit and, you have another glass of wine and your logic tells you don't have that extra glass because you're driving home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could make that choice, which would be a reasonable choice to make. But then deep down you have that absolute desire and need for this bonding with your friends. So in the end, you make the choice.
You chose to.
After that. Now, when you end up in the ditch and wait for the tow truck, you may realize you made the wrong choice. But at any given moment, think about it, any given moment when you make a choice, you will make the best possible choice you think you can make at that particular moment.
That's so interesting. That was the hardest concept because my coach training tells me there are no mistakes. And it's like, what? And it's like, but I hear what you're saying. And it's like if you stay in the present, and Lord knows that's hard to do, the choice was the choice that you made, and it was correct for that moment. The results may or may not be favorable in your choice, but for that, okay, well then, if you're gonna, that's a great attitude. But if you're very cavalier and say, well, I can't make a mistake, so I'm just going to go with the flow here and blah blah blah. How do you get people focused to be creative, or do you?
You do, because ultimately, of course, you can make mistakes.
Yes.
You don't make them consciously at the moment, but they may turn out the wrong thing. And this is where coaching and self-awareness comes in. So, in such a powerful way is, so how do you know you're making the right choice? How do you know you're making the right choice at any given moment? Give you another example. You come home in the evening and your spouse is distanced, doesn't pay you any attention. You feel he or she is somewhere else. So you have a couple of choices. You either can think, oh my God, he's having an affair, divorce, what are the kids going to do? Or you have the other choice to say, we need to talk about that. We are a team here. We need to talk through that. Or you can give him space. You can make the choice to say, this is a complex human being. He's going through stuff. Let's give him space. Let's give him allow him his time. Okay? So here are 3 choices. Now the question is, why do you make any of these given choices? Because ultimately, you have a history. You have an emotional, subconscious reaction to certain things. And by nature, subconscious reactions are not quite under your control. So if you have a knee-jerk reaction to think he's having an affair,
you may have had that experience in the past.
Yeah. So you're making a choice that may eventually lead to divorce. But you're making the choice convinced that you're making the right choice, that you're having the right reaction. And that's what makes coaching so interesting, because it leads you to the openness to look at choices without being too attached to a particular truth,
Wow. Yes, it does lead you. You don't get, it's not there. That it's a hard one. It's because, again, we're back to, the past predicting the future. But if you stay in the present and go, what is really happening right now? So how does that apply to businesses? How does that apply to executivism? And I'm always sympathetic, I guess that's a good word, empathetic, I guess, with executives, because they have this whole role that they have to play, especially the top guys. And I always remind people who go, oh my God, I don't know if I can coach him. It's like, executives are people too. They have feelings, they're real. But how does this play out in the business world? This choice and objectivity and perspective and all that jazz. How does that play out?
Well, great business leaders understand the importance that you first have to come to a place of non-knee-jerk reactions, that you have to become really conscious of why you're making certain choices.
Can we think of anyone who could use this advice today? Just kidding.
No, especially not the audience, no way.
No, of course not.
Like an example, I give you a real life example.
Okay.
So the real life example is an executive I actually did coaching and training with. I also do seminars and specific leadership training and transitioning training and things like that. So we did a mixture of things after he called us in, a large company called us in, and he had problems with his team, right? It was a team that was basically sort of had an undercurrent of being dysfunctional. They didn't communicate well, there was no support, it was a very stressful team, and there was no real responsibility. People just showed up to do their job, and there wasn't that strong engagement that was needed, right? So he, very clever person, and he was willing to look at himself and say, do you know what? My first reaction was, they're just all bad people and they should be fired or whatever.
I need a new team.
Yeah. And he said, no, let's look at what's going on. So we worked with him and spent 2 weeks in total, accompanied him and watched and observed and talked. And brilliant guy, but he was always hurried, always in a hurry, always hurried, never time for real conversation, never time for his people, very demanding, very clever, got good results, but the insidious, sorry.
It's okay.
It's the accent. The insidious undercurrent of a slowly disintegrating relationship between people, So what happened is when a leader is constantly in a hurry and constantly under pressure, the message being sent out to the team is, you better perform. We don't have time to chat. We don't have time to hang out at the
we don't have time with your little problems. Yeah.
So what suffered? Communication suffered, innovation and creativity suffered because there was no time for that. So people came, did their job, went in, super performed, and that was it. And over time, weakness started setting in, So the solution was as simple as that, is awareness of his behavior, is awareness of his need, and he was pressured. He was in a very high pressure job, so he overcompensated by never having time, by being in a hurry, by being like a hard hitter, quick mover, So he made adjustments, understood where he was coming from, and automatically the initial idea, let's retrain the team, was no longer necessary. We retrained him.
What a valuable lesson.
And he loved it, that was it. And the team followed suit.
Oh my gosh, that's
automatically.
the old trickle-down thing, that worked.
So that's a classic example.
That's interesting, Now can you, but you also work with teams, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was a special case. I love that. That's so you kind of train the trainer and let him do the job, or train the manager and let him do that. And then you have dynamics for teams and things like that also.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the first basis is always understand the status quo, understand where the team is right now. And understand where movement forward is wanted, needed, expected. Where do we need to go in order to achieve
Wow.
what we need to achieve.
So who, these have to be, I'm thinking your clients have to be ready and willing, or at least, well, we were talking about this also. It was like they have to realize that something ain't working. Something ain't working here, something's wrong. And say, okay, there needs to be a change. Because who are your clients? Who come to you?
Mostly Fortune 500 for training programs, coaching, executive, C-suite, management, sometimes whole group coaching, and then individual professionals like financial advisors is a big thing because they're under a lot of pressure. And the thing is, it's not always because something is wrong. Advancement is often
good point.
because something
Good
is
point.
wrong.
Yeah,
but people, look into the future and don't wait for things to be wrong, but they look into the future. How can they? I would love to give another example. Another
Please,
client,
I love
and
it.
I love
Yeah.
that example too. So, it's a large pharmaceutical company. Obviously, I won't mention names.
Yes,
It's
yes.
a large, very successful company around for almost 100 years now.
Ooh,
So
okay.
very well established worldwide organization. And a couple of years back, about 4 years back, I think at this stage, they realized they need to respond to the market in a different way, especially with their sales and advertising and commercial people and this big group of people. So they came up with the idea they want to formulate it in a phrase. So they said they want their whole workforce to be more innovative. So thoughtful risk-taking was the line.
I like that. Thoughtful risk-taking. Okay.
Being pharmaceutical, there's a lot of regulation.
Guidelines and
Guidelines and
regulations,
regulation,
rules, all
exactly.
that stuff. Yeah,
So it
laws.
had to be thoughtful, it had to be careful, but there also was the idea, bring more innovation, bring more willingness to take risks so that we can advance to a faster moving, more modern world. Yeah. So they spent tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I hope with you.
Not that I wished.
Not originally, yeah.
Not originally, yeah. And then, on conferences, on videos, it was just a big thing, thoughtful risk-taking. They were very proud of it, and the idea behind it, because they wanted to empower their people to be more innovative, to take greater, show more accountability, be more engaged, right? So they put this whole thing into action, and you probably guess what happens. Nothing. Nothing happened.
Whole lot of nothing. Yeah.
Quite the opposite. Engagement went back. So they pulled in a whole bunch of advisors, not only as McKinsey and a whole bunch of advisors, different advisors. What is happening? Are these all bad people? No, of course not. So what we did is we started analyzing. And the thing is, and that's what we talked about earlier, one thing that I do in coaching is to bring awareness to informed action. If we do an action like this company did, going into thoughtful risk-taking, but it's not informed action, we're in trouble. So what happened is, and it was relatively easy to figure out, is the fact that as an old company, there was a lot of tradition, good traditions. But one thing that was in that company is it was a very punitive company. You made a mistake, your head was on the butcher block. Yeah. So if you have thoughtful risk-taking moving into the future, but we're not releasing you from the punitive way of running the company, you're stuck. There's no movement forward.
You're going to have to be really courageous to come up innovatively if you know there's a penalty if you screw up.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And
Oh my
risk-taking,
gosh.
you have to become a risk-friendly organization, right?
Yes, yes.
But in order to become risk-friendly, you need to communicate that. You need first take attention, pay attention to that, and that applies to a person in their own private life, in their relationship with the husband who's maybe or maybe not having an affair.
Right. That guy. Yeah.
If we just take action, but we don't really look at those rubber strings that pull us back to our.
Oh, that's a good expression, like a rubber band that'll.
Yeah.
You can go this far and then whoops.
It's like a diet.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yo-yo.
You go on a
Whoa.
diet, boom, you're back.
You're back. You're back. Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. If we don't pay attention to both, and we don't have the openness and curiosity ultimately to observe ourselves, then we waste so much time, we waste so much energy, we do so many things that don't work out or that don't work, and that's on a huge organizational level, and it's on a personal and private level. And it's human nature, we stay attached to what we know.
Interesting. So it sounds like to me that you do a systemic analysis. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, here's the goal, here's the people, here's the, but whoa, what the whole thing? What is the culture of the company? What is the
Yeah.
environment in which you're going to?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always start, I mean, you know, coaching, if there are any, you know, this is a coaching chat. So coaching is about openness, about allowing. You know, it's about, it's not
Yes.
about saying this is where we have to go. Coaching is about the expansion of the coachee, of what's happening. But at the same time, we want to get somewhere relatively fast. So the first thing I tend to do is to come into a place of self-observation, and I call it emptiness, right?
Right.
With the assumption that every person, every problem, everything by nature doesn't have meaning. It has meaning what we assign to it.
Our perception. Yeah.
I do a little. Can I do a little example?
Sure.
Like
sure.
a fun thing. And this is why this pencil is lying. This pen is lying in the sand. So what is this?
It's a pencil. I think you said.
Pen.
Oh, a pen. Okay.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Right. I would agree with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really difficult to not see that as a pen.
Right.
Okay. So is that the ultimate truth? This is a pen.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we're in a studio, so a dog walks into the studio, right?
Yes.
Does he see a pen?
No, he sees a toy.
He sees a chew toy, right? Now, okay, you could say a dog is a dog. Now, we invited into the studio a warrior from the Amazon jungle who has never been in civilization.
Sees a tiny spear. Very
Yeah,
tiny spear.
Exactly. Now, we're going to put this down, and you and I and the dog and the warrior, we leave the studio. What is it?
I don't know. It's whatever you think it is.
It depends who walks in first.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's amazing.
And that's, by the way, that is a sample that is used in Buddhism, the idea of emptiness.
Yeah.
So I would love to say that was my idea, but it's not.
Who would know? Buddha? He won't
Oh
talk.
no, you know, we've got to be honest here. And the idea, you can apply that same thing to the husband, you think he's cheating, to the team, you think who is underperforming. When we come to a place of looking at a problem, an issue, a behavior of somebody, and give it enough time, eventually we come to conclusions, but we give it enough time to open up perspectives.
And see it from all sides. We have 20 seconds left.
We have 20, oh my God.
You're going to have to go.
flew.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
You're going to have to go to her website, which is on the bottom, and check out what she's got. These are fascinating. I love that. Oh, I wish you'd done that earlier. We could have done that with everything in the room. It's like, what is that really? Karin Kearns, thank you so much for being on the Coaching Game.
Oh,
I want
it's
you
been-
back so you can tell us some more stuff. Thank
It's been
you.
a really pleasure. Thank you.